venues in the Seattle area. Welcome, Rebecca. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Brenda. I'm pleased to be here.
So before I get into this, Rebecca, I have to do an acknowledgement, and it's a personal prayer to my Lord and Savior, who has done some special things for me today. Number one, he allowed me to get here because I was involved in two near-miss car accidents, which would have not let me get here. And the second one is allowing a facility to take my dad so he can go into phase 3 of his recovery. So thank you, Lord. I am so appreciative of all that you do and the blessings that you give me.
I'm glad your dad's in someplace safe and that you're here with me too, Brenda.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So what does Northwest Center for Creative Aging do?
We actually are a resource and an enrichment, an organization that provides enrichment opportunities for seniors. We arrange presentations in retirement communities, libraries, community centers that speak to people as they age, encouraging them to live actively and vitally. We lead conversations in libraries where people can come and discuss things that are important to them as they get older. Things like, what is my legacy? And what are the surprises of aging? What gets me up in the morning? Things like that matter to us as we get older. And we also collaborate with a number of organizations in town that are dealing with some of the issues that face us as we get older.
Wow, that's a lot. So how long has this center been in existence?
Well, let me just clarify that we don't actually have a place anybody can go.
Oh.
So we are actually a center in the biggest sense of the word, that we more or less are a clearinghouse, I think. It's 10 years old, but I have been executive director for the past 6. So I'm the 3rd executive director, and I think I've taken it in some ways directions that might have been thought about by the original founders, but have made sense to me as I've had my direction with it. And I will just say that I think of this career as an encore career, a term that's being used now in the aging community around the things we do after we've done our career work, after we've been paid. You know, many of us wind up with a good 20 years ahead of us after we get the jobs we had. And an encore career are things that draw you, whether they pay you or not, but they are the next thing you do.
I like that. I was looking for a pen so I could write that down. So we'll talk afterwards and I'll write that down because I like that. That's excellent. So, and you sort of touched on this, but since you've been executive director, what kinds of changes have you seen in the field of aging?
It's interesting because I think we are now beginning to enter the great wave of people who are really looking at the years ahead of them as opposed to the years behind. And so things I'm seeing is that people are having conversations in more depth around major issues in how we age. And those include, where do we live and how do we live and who do we live with?
Right.
How do we take care of ourselves so we stay healthy? And also, what if we're not healthy? What kinds of things do we need to know and help with? I think a lot about issues related to the spectrum between independence and dependence. Sort of, what does interdependence look like? We're also talking more and more honestly about end-of-life issues, something that wasn't necessarily talked about in the past. And I know that my friend Dory Gillum was on your show a couple of months ago, I think.
Yes.
And Dory and I both present in the field of end-of-life. And we sometimes joke that death is the new sex, which is this joke we make.
I love it.
What used to be taboo in the old days, remember, you never talked about sex. Now people will tell you everything except their bank account. But the taboo on talking about end of life is over, and because we're in a state where there are choices that people can make, it's important for people to begin to talk about that. And it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be a way that we have meaningful conversations with people about what's important to us and what we want as we end our lives.
You are so correct. I have given some presentations on end of life myself. You know Trudy James.
Trudy's one of my close friends.
All right. So Trudy, I just finished a workshop with her and will be studying under her to get my certifications.
Wonderful.
Facilitate
so glad.
Yes, it is just, oh man, it's overwhelming. And it touches me, and it has touched me for years, but it touches me even more now. I'm not sure if I told you or not, but I'm a notary public also.
I saw that. I saw
So,
that on your website.
I have talked about this from the notary standpoint, and in fact, I just wrote an article that's going to get published next week, I think it is. And it's about the importance of having a will. And one of the things that is just, I don't want to say irked me, but just makes me sad is people think that if you make a will, that means you're going to die.
I know, it's superstitious.
It is, and
If
we're
I-
going
if
to
I
die,
talk
folks.
about, well, as somebody said, life is a terminal diagnosis, but
Right.
But I think that a lot of this has to do with education, and we have so many more options than we used to, and I think there are so many more resources to help us think about these things than there were in the past. So I think that's one of the, in a way, this is a good time to be getting older, because there are more resources. There are more opportunities for people to come together, talk, support each other. There's more resources in terms of the community. The other thing that I actually am really involved with, in addition to End of Life, which I support, is I'm involved with the variety of communities that have come together to look at the issue of dementia. So Seattle is a fabulous place to have cognitive loss, as we say.
That's true.
And there's an organization named Momentia.
Oh,
Momentia is actually a cooperative of a bunch of organizations that help people with early and mid-level cognitive loss. And there's way more opportunities for people who are beginning to enter that area of their lives, things to be involved with dance and chorus and walking in the zoo every Monday and doing art and lots of stuff like that. So again, we didn't used to talk about that, and there's a great fear around dementia. But the more we talk about it, the more we look at it, I think we're going to be able to not make it quite so scary as people feel about it.
well, Pam Nolte was here, and yes, we had a real fun time. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Seniors Matter with your host, Brenda Charles Edwards, live on www.rainieravenueradio.world, Facebook, and the TuneIn Radio app. Today, my guest is Rebecca Crichton, Executive Director of Northwest Center for Creative Aging. She facilitates wisdom cafes for the King County Library System and writes a regular column for Third Act magazine called Giving Voice to Values. Tell me a little bit about the wisdom cafes.
Wisdom cafes came out of two things, Brenda. They came out of an ongoing book group that a woman on the East Side had been doing for a batch of years, and out of conversations about creative aging that I used to do on my own in terms of Northwest Center for Creative Aging. Wendy Pender, who is one of the wonderful people in the world that you should interview next.
I'd love to.
Wendy Pender is the adult specialist librarian of the King County Library System, and she's a great supporter of aging well. And she came up with the idea of kind of combining this regular ability to talk about ideas, facilitated conversations that are by topic. So both Dory and I are facilitators for Wisdom Cafes. We've had almost, in the past 3 years, I think we're going on over 100 now. Ooh. The librarians in the King County Library System is a big system. There's 49 libraries, and they are always looking at ways to service their population. They're funded by property taxes, so they have a lot of resources. And
good old property
there
taxes.
We are,
That's another thing. Seniors and property taxes.
Anyway, she liked the idea of offering the librarians these wisdom cafes, sending them a bunch of topics that were from a list that we had created in NWCCA, and they picked 6 topics that they liked, and we scheduled them in libraries all around the region, all around King County.
That's wonderful.
And people come and feel very included and stimulated. It's a safe safe way to have conversations that are meaningful. And in some ways, it's sometimes easier to have these conversations with people you don't know well.
That's true.
You know, there's this
That's
sort of
true.
way sometimes when you're with your family, the people around, they already have some opinions about what you should think or not, and vice versa.
Exactly.
But in these conversations, people really discover, first of all, they can be in community with each other, and second, that they can learn from each other around the topics.
Right. What do you hear from people when you talk about aging?
Well, there's a lot of fear. I once said to somebody that it feels like if you talk to people who are boomers, that we occupy the space between hope and terror, and
Okay.
of trying to figure out how do I age. Well, we see people living longer, better, more creatively than ever before. Certainly more than our parents probably did.
That's very true.
And so that's sort of exciting because there is more recognition that we're not done contributing just because we've retired or just because we've hit some age. That we're not even sure what
Age is just a number.
Age is just a number. And what they're finding, I just read something in a book yesterday that said that we differ more in how we age at the different ages than in any other time in our lives. So you can meet somebody who's 55 who seems pretty old, you know, and is kind of in some ways given up or bored or
Right.
isolated or whatever. And I know some 90-year-olds who are really active and
So do I.
going. So there's a lot of difference. Some is genetic, some is emotional, some is attitude. So I guess I'm seeing that whole range in how we age.
Wow, that says a lot. Okay, so what does research indicate about what individuals need to do to stay healthy and engaged?
Well, on the top of the list, and it just keeps showing up as the top of the list, is exercise.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh.
nothing seems to be more important. And do you know John Medina's work? He wrote a book
No.
called Brain Rules, and now he has Brain Rules for older people.
Oh, I think I've heard of Brain Rules, but I haven't read it yet.
It's good. It's got a bunch of stuff, and he talks a lot about why exercise is important because among the things that it does, it releases a hormone in our system that is helpful for our brain cells. And so what we know is that the thing that is the single most dangerous thing for our brain neurons is stress. So exercise can help with stress because it releases something called BDNF. I'm going to say something scientific, but it's the only big scientific word I know. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Woo, and you have it memorized.
It took me a long time, so I like to say it when I can, so it stays with me. But I heard a neuroscientist said that particular hormone, well, it's some kind of a.
Is it an endorphin?
Well, it probably falls in that category. They said think of it as condoms for your brain cells. Does it come in different flavors and colors? A vision for you around, but anything that protects our brain cells from stress is important. So exercise, top of the list. Next in line, relationships with other people. People need to be involved with each other.
And that's where the prevention of isolation comes in, right?
Absolutely. So you probably heard the statistic that isolation is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It is a concern for people. And I was just in a meeting this morning, Dory was there too, where the woman who's the head of the Greenwood Senior Center said that we sometimes don't know when people are isolated, we don't know when they're depressed.
Right.
And she said there's a person she knows who seems so engaged and involved and stuff, and she just recently heard that she really struggles with depression. So we cover up.
Right.
Sure. We do a lot of covering up. We cover up around worrying about our minds. We cover up about, we don't want to be unhappy in front of others. So we don't really know how to support each other sometimes. So connection, exercise. We sometimes say, Dory and I both present similar ways. We say there are 4 things that people need to feel good about themselves. I'm not sure about research. They need something to do, something to look forward to, something to believe in, someone, and someone to love and to love them. And then we always say you need something to laugh about, you need something to get you moving. And if people know what those are in their lives, they tend to be pretty engaged and happy. Sort of.
That sounds good to me. That exercise piece, I believe in it. Sometimes it's difficult to do.
It is hard to do.
But I know it is important, and I had put it back on my list of number one things to do. It's kind of slipped down, but now I gotta put it back up.
Well, do exercise with a friend, and then you've got two in one.
Well, I usually exercise with my mother.
Oh, fabulous.
We usually go to the Y together. So we've had some things come up recently, so it's kind of prevented us from getting to the gym, but we are going to get back next week.
You will. And the intention's good too. There's some research that shows for people who are professional athletes and musicians, they do a lot of visualization of their craft, so to speak. So you and your mother could have a visualizing exercise experience together. It might make a difference. I don't know. Why not? It's not to lose.
Hey, really?
Yeah.
Just to update you, you're listening live to Seniors Matter with your host, Brenda Charles Edwards, on the World Wide Web, RainierAvenueRadio.world, Facebook, and you can also find us on the TuneIn Radio app. My guest today is Rebecca Crichton, Executive Director of Northwest Center for Aging. She trained as a hospice volunteer and facilitated grief support groups for more than 20 years. She has a master's degree in child development and organizational development and is a certified coach. So I know you're involved with Momentia, because we sort of talked about that. And I would like you to just stress about it a little bit more, because I really think it's important that people understand that just because you have dementia doesn't mean that that's the end.
That's right.
For you.
That's right. So I think it's one of those things, again, that we're learning so much more about. People talk about losing somebody to dementia. I think because we emphasize what's not there anymore, we don't stop to think about what is there. Mm-hmm. People with dementia often have terrific sense of humors. They are in the moment. They are present in the moment. And as Pam Nolte told you, when they do improv, people who have dementia are much more comfortable being in the moment and doing improv than other people who are trying to do it right or trying to be the best. So there is a way that if we're willing to engage very much in the present, not try to correct people, not try to get them to do things they don't want to do, there is a lot of support. And I don't know if you know an organization called With a Little Help.
Yes,
Sean,
yes.
Sean D'Amelio.
Yes.
She has a very nice bookmark that has the 10 things you should not do with people with dementia. Correct them and repeat, make them feel guilty or fight with them or any of that stuff. And Sean's a good person to think about. So I think there's a lot more people who know about how to be with people with dementia than before. My concern always, and what I hear because I'm involved with retirement communities, is that when people are diagnosed with early onset or with Alzheimer's, suddenly everybody around them, not suddenly, but people get so scared, they don't know how to interact, and then that increases the isolation of the person with dementia. And so all of us need to learn to be able to interact with people with dementia in a way that honors the fact that they are still here, and to not be so afraid.
So would that be your helpful message that you would leave with our audience?
Around dementia? Yeah, I would say learn ways to interact, learn ways to find out, to be able to have a conversation that may go around in circles, but that lets you be creative with them, where you're not always thinking about what used to be, but what is now. And so it means don't embarrass people with questioning about their past, which they can't remember, but talking about what they're doing right now, or what they're seeing right now, or what they like right now. That's a better thing to do, and to just be present.
And I know music is really important too.
Absolutely.
And in fact, I just talking to the nurse today, and she said, well, if your dad doesn't want to eat, put some music on. And I thought, okay, so what's the correlation? But I guess it's just more of relaxing.
Well, there's a couple of things. Do you know the film Still Alive? Have you seen that?
No.
It's a wonderful film about using music to help people kind of connect back into their lives. And it was put together by a man. There was a little clip on YouTube, I think, called "Henry Comes Alive." It was about an older man, an older African American man who could barely interact, and then his daughter put together a little tape of music that he loved, and when he heard it, he could sing along and he could interact. So there is some indication that where music resides in our brains stays there longer than other things that fade away. And so I think that putting together a tape of your dad's favorite things would be a good thing for him, and it would calm him, but also probably engage him.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining us on Seniors Matter and sharing this wonderful bit of information. I'm going to be writing down some things that you had said.
Thanks for inviting me, Brenda. It's been fun.
Thank you. So this is Seniors Matter with your host, Brenda Charles Edwards. Join me every Friday live at 12:30 as we keep you informed about activities, resources, and issues that impact the lives of older adults, their families, and our community. I wanted to let you know that today is the last day of National Make Your Will. If you haven't made your will out, please do so. You can use an attorney, or you can do it yourself if you have simple matters. It's really important. Aretha Franklin died just recently, and my understanding is her estate was worth $80 million, and she didn't have a will. And the state of Detroit is going to make the decisions on how that estate of hers is divided up. And, right now she's having a wonderful ceremony going on, but it's about more than that. So please, making a will is not a death sentence. So once you get your will done, it needs to be notarized with 2 witnesses. Give me a call. I'm a mobile notary. I'd love to come to you. Tell me where. I'll meet you there. My number is 650-265-1193. Until next time, thanks for listening, and live your life like it's golden.
Oh.